Hello, welcome back. Your weekly podcast. Well, I say weekly. We didn't have one last week, so...
No, you picked the wrong week to have a holiday.
One thing I've learnt from being away last week is there's no good time to take time off when there is so much royal news. So there was no podcast last week. However, that doesn't mean to say there wasn't any news last week.
Yep, and it came thick and it came fast all week.
Yes, involving Queen, Andrew, Charles, Harry, so yes, a bad week to be on vacation. However, I have to say that if you ever get a chance to go to Florida in February, I can thoroughly recommend it. It's a great place to be. Just be prepared to do a few lives from your hotel room because...
Nice to get some winter sun and try and have a bit of a break.
The UK kept happening.
It did.
Probably, well, I'm looking at my list here. Trying to work out which one is the most serious.
Do you think maybe we should do a rundown, given that so much has happened, and then we can take
Should
you
we go
through...
back to a Robinson's Royal Rundown?
Yes.
So for the new viewers of the podcast, in previous days and weeks, we used to do something called the Robinson's Royal Rundown, which is a rundown of royal news from Lizzie Robinson. I don't know why we stopped it. We kind of stopped it because it was getting too long, probably, and it was taking up most of the...
Well, I think it might today. It's a very long list, but it might just help us navigate some of the big
Here we go.
things
Well, let's
that have
reintroduce this little device that helps you summarise what happened, and you can do it in what, chronological order?
I'm going to do it in chronological order.
Okay, when we last recorded the podcast, did Prince Charles have COVID?
Yes.
He had already had COVID. That was the Thursday.
Yes.
Right.
It was included
That's right.
in that episode.
I was at home because I had some COVID issues in the house. Prince Charles got COVID. Yes.
Yes.
Right, and then Camilla got it after that.
Yes.
Right, so here on your Royal Rota podcast from ITV, thank you very much for joining us, is a triumphant return of Robinson's Royal Rundown.
So last week on Monday, we had an announcement that the Duchess of Cornwall had also tested positive for COVID following the Prince of Wales, which we found out the week before. On the Tuesday, we had the news through that Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre had reached an out-of-court settlement. That was followed on the Wednesday by news that the Metropolitan Police had launched an investigation into cash for honours allegations linked to Prince Charles's Prince's Foundation. We also, last week on Friday, there was the first hearing over the Duke of Sussex's claim against the Home Office over police protection. Then on Sunday, we found out that the Queen had tested positive for COVID, and subsequently throughout the week, we found out she has cancelled various virtual audiences, although she has had her weekly audience with the Prime Minister. The Duchess of Cambridge was in Denmark on Tuesday and Wednesday this week, and Prince Harry launched a new High Court action against Associated Newspapers Limited, and in the last hour before recording this, we've had some big tour news.
Right, okay, as I said, not a great week to take off of work, was it?
Yes.
If I'd known that before I left on holiday, I would probably have been much less relaxed. Anyhow, perhaps we should start at the top and start with the Queen. I think everyone wants to know, how is she? And the answer is, we don't know for sure, but she did have her weekly audience with the Prime Minister by telephone. She did cancel a couple of virtual audiences today, which, I mean, let's face it, if you've got COVID, you really want to get up and slap your makeup on and get dressed and sit in front of a TV screen and have the whole world peering at you to see how you look.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
No, and for the virtual audiences, you do have to. She would have had to have her hair done, her makeup done, kind of dress, have an audience. You know, if she's feeling a bit under the weather, and we know that she's had mild cold-like symptoms, I'm sure that she probably does just want to rest. Although, you know, Buckingham Palace throughout the week have been very keen to reassure. We've, you know, she put out various messages, one on Sunday, the day that she tested positive, to Team GB's curling teams. Then we also had a message from her on Monday to the President of Brazil, a message of condolence over flooding in the country. And we know that she also had her audience with the Prime Minister on Wednesday evening. So Buckingham Palace very keen over the week to reassure us that she is still sort of undertaking light duties.
Yes, so it was at 11:45 on Sunday, which actually, because I was in Florida and 5 hours behind, this was 6:45 in the morning for me, so I was like an hour behind everyone else with this news by the time I woke up. But Buckingham Palace confirmed the Queen has today tested positive for COVID. Her Majesty is experiencing, they say, mild cold-like symptoms, but expects to continue light duties at Windsor over the coming week. She will continue to receive medical attention and will follow all appropriate guidelines. When we say light duties, we probably mean the kind of, attending to her state papers and her red boxes. Remember that picture we had of the Queen with her red box only very recently, which was at Sandringham as part of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. And the light duties did extend to a telephone call with the Prime Minister, the regular weekly audience that she always tries to have. Light duties do not extend to the virtual call because that's kind of a step up.
Yeah, so she was supposed to have audiences on... What day are we today? We're Thursday today, so Tuesday, and also today we know she was supposed to have virtual audiences, and those were both cancelled or today
postponed or whatever. So. And I don't blame her. Having done television work when I had COVID, I wouldn't recommend it. So, and I'm not a head of state, So.
Or 95.
Or 95, exactly. So, and I don't have the whole world peering at me to see how how healthy I seem or otherwise. So mild cold-like symptoms, the next thing the Queen's got is something next week, isn't it? But we don't yet know, and they won't confirm whether or not she's going to be available to do that.
Yeah, so next week she is due on March the 2nd for an evening reception at Windsor Castle for the diplomatic corps.
And that was one of the things they said recently when they announced her big return to work. It was one of the things that they said she was going to go to alongside, like Prince Philip's memorial.
Prince Philip's service of Thanksgiving and also the Commonwealth Day service. So the things in the diary for March. But I think, she does still hope to attend, but it's difficult for them to make a call at this stage.
Well, you just can't, can you? Exactly.
It's still a week away.
How she's feeling. We wish her the best. We wish the Queen a speedy recovery from COVID, and we do hope that it won't be too long until she is back at work. But this kind of illness thing has been going on now. Well, I mean, not the COVID part of it, but the scare around the Queen's health has been kind of going on since late October, hasn't it? So.
Yeah, she since late October, when she pulled out of that visit to Northern Ireland, that 2-day visit to Northern Ireland, and was ordered to rest and only undertake light duties, and then we found out that she'd had that overnight stay in hospital. Since then, we've sort of seen a limited amount from her. However, we did see her at Sandringham over that accession weekend at a reception at Sandringham House where she looked on sparkling form.
Really good form.
Thought.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we brought you those pictures. Was it last time we did a podcast of the Queen skipping round the room? I say that metaphorically, but she did look well. But actually, have a watch here. This is the Queen meeting some outgoing. I forget what they were. So
it's the outgoing and incoming Defence Services Secretaries.
What are they? Question.
Defence Services Secretaries.
Yeah, exactly. What do they do?
And she met them at Windsor Castle for an audience.
This is one of the things where you don't answer my question.
No.
You, like me, don't know the answer. No, anyway, whatever the Defence Services Secretaries are, the outgoing and incoming ones saw the Queen. This was a little snippet of their meeting.
I'm here. I thought my Majesty stayed there for ages.
Majesty.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Majesty. How are you?
Well, as you can see, I can't move.
Oh, well, many congratulations on the start of your Jubilee year.
Good morning. Oh, thank you very much indeed. That's very kind.
Yeah, that's right. And I noticed you'd got Candy keeping guard, because as we came down the corridor, she was not going to let us get anywhere near you.
Oh, really?
No, she was
giving a little growl.
Growl as well.
She doesn't normally growl. But...
She's obviously can see through us.
I can't move, said the Queen. No, we're not sure that's because she was told not to move by the camera or because she was feeling particularly fragile that day. But
she did gesture to her leg, it seemed, and it seems to be the first time that she has acknowledged any issues with mobility. But it's our understanding that she was maybe feeling a little stiff rather than anything more serious.
Yeah. And she looked like she was holding onto that table or her walking stick as well when she was there. But
and I think Candy, the well-known dog, the famous dog that's always pops in. Candy was, I think, that one of the Defence Services secretaries said that she wasn't that keen on them entering the room. I think she was growling at them.
Oh, okay. Yes. Don't upset.
And the Queen said, "Oh, that's unlike her." So there you are.
Maybe the dog took a dislike to one of the Defence Services secretaries. Maybe because the dog, like us, doesn't know what they do. Maybe because the dog has no idea what a Defence Services secretary actually does. But there we are. We should probably move to what were, I have to say, a couple of very dark days for this institution and for the royal family. A pretty torrid couple of days in which Prince Andrew settled with his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, and then his elder brother learned of a police investigation into the activities of the former boss of one of his charities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
not great 2 days, really, were
not
they?
a great 2 days for the royal family, no.
That's pretty. I mean, a police investigation and settling, paying out all that money to a woman you claim you've never met.
Yep. So this dropped on Tuesday afternoon UK time, completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
I mean, we've discussed on this podcast and widely that
trial,
we
not
expected,
going to trial,
cases of this nature, the vast majority do tend to settle outside of court. So it wasn't surprising. We just had no idea that it was going to happen on that day.
Yes. The vast majority settle out of court. I mean, we don't know why he reached the decision. It could possibly have been that the Queen ordered her son to close this thing down, no matter what it cost, because it was threatening to overshadow her Platinum Jubilee. That's possible. Where he got the money from, a lot of money. There's the sale of the chalet in the Swiss Alps, but there's potentially being helped by the Bank of Mum. Her private income, I should point out. I think, as I said on air the other day, they'd be mad if they paid this out from the public taxpayer funds. But the Queen does have private streams of income, both from inheritances and from what's called the Duchy of Lancaster, which is a sort of an estate that's set up to help fund the private work of the monarch, really, not just her, but the previous monarchs and those who will follow. But that's a lot of money.
He also had the deposition looming that was due to take place in London on the 10th of March. Yeah, and that would have been with Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, David Boys,
and it would have been made public.
Has been described to us as one of the best deposition takers of a generation. Yeah. So that was sort of coming up. That was the next scheduled thing.
So no admission of guilt, no liability accepted, just a statement, wasn't it, from Prince Andrew's office. Perhaps we should read that. Do you want to read that statement in full, or as much as you think we need to read?
Yeah, so we had this page, which was announcing that there was going to be a settlement, which said, Dear Judge Kaplan, we write jointly with counsel for defendant to advise the court that the parties reached a settlement in principle of the above referenced action. The action between.
Bosh, that was from Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, David Boys.
On behalf of both of them. And then there was another page, which I shall read. Virginia Giuffre and Prince Andrew have reached an out-of-court settlement. The parties will file a stipulated dismissal upon Miss Giuffre's receipt of the settlement, the sum of which is not being disclosed. Prince Andrew intends to make a substantial donation to Ms Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. Prince Andrew has never intended to malign Ms Giuffre's character, and he accepts that she has suffered both as an established victim of abuse and a result of unfair public attacks. It is known that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked countless young girls over many years. Prince Andrew regrets his association with Epstein and commends the bravery of Miss Giuffre and other survivors in standing up for themselves and others. He pledges to demonstrate his regret for his association with Epstein by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking and by supporting its victims.
So you heard that, demonstrating his regret for his association with Jeffrey Epstein and regretting the fact that he ever met him. You kind of think, why didn't you say any of this when he did that Newsnight interview? Remember that question?
Yeah.
It was like, do you regret meeting Jeffrey Epstein? Actually, no, because he taught me a lot about business. I mean, what a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was a sex trafficker, a paedophile, a convicted sex offender. You would just say that you regretted the moment you set eyes on him, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And he didn't until then.
This point.
Yeah.
We don't know the figure for the out-of-court settlement. Figures have been widely speculated.
Around 10 million,
12 million,
yeah.
Whatever it is, it's going to be a huge figure. It also seems, talking to lawyers, that their interpretation of this was that Virginia Giuffre will receive some of the settlement and another portion will go towards her charity in support of victims' rights.
Yeah, but whatever way, terrible for Prince Andrew. Again, we should reiterate, no admission of liability or guilt, but in terms of his reputation, absolutely shredded now, isn't it? There's absolutely no way back from him ever when it comes to royal family. And it makes you wonder whether that when the Queen stripped him of all his titles, as she did a few weeks ago, whether she knew this was coming. And this was just a preemptive strike, as in, okay, right, you're not coming back son.
Yeah.
This is you out of the firm.
And in her big Platinum Jubilee year, there is unlikely to be any role for Prince Andrew. You know, he's not going to be able to appear on that balcony.
Unlikely. I'd say definitely,
definitely
not any
not.
role for Prince Andrew at any point.
He's not going to be coming out on that balcony.
No.
He's not going to be at any of the engagements to celebrate.
He's not doing his own tour of the Caribbean.
No.
More of which
not.
later, by the way.
And he he's kept his head down, and he is at Royal Lodge, where he spent kind of a lot of time holed up since.
And Royal Lodge actually is, you know, a lot of people saying, why doesn't the Queen kick him out of there? I mean,
Yeah.
But again, that's her. It's like on a lease, isn't it, to the Crown Estate, but like Prince Harry's property as well.
And actually, we spoke to Penny Juna, who actually said that she thinks that it will be Charles that ends up having to deal with a lot of these issues.
Charles, I think, is going to have to make some very tough decisions in the not too distant future. Andrew is living in a grace and favour house. His security is paid for by the public purse. And this will not go down well with the public. But the Queen will, I think, find it difficult to make those decisions herself. This is her beloved third child.
And as we were just saying, no way back for him. And even some of the people we spoke to last week, like Anna Whitelock, the royal historian, basically said, mate, you ain't coming back.
Yeah, and
no way back.
And I think there'll be the one thing that he could possibly attend is the service of Thanksgiving for the Duke of Edinburgh, because, you know, the Duke of Edinburgh, he would be there in his role as a son of the Duke of Edinburgh rather than...
You wonder whether that would overshadow even that event.
But I think questions over that.
You know, the optics of him being apparently embraced back into the family and appear in those shots in the Jubilee on the balcony and so on, I think will be very awkward and will raise questions. And I think the point of vulnerability in all of this for the royal family, and particularly the Queen, is the question of where the money might come from for that financial settlement. He has sold his Swiss chalet, but that might not cover the costs of his legal fees and this settlement. And the suggestion is that it would come from the private wealth, the private estates of the Queen.
Will he remain the Duke of York? ? Will he keep the Dukedom of York and his association with that fine city in North Yorkshire?
Well, there have been calls for him to be stripped of the Duke of York title. The MP there, Rachel Maskell, says that he should now lose it.
We're calling on Andrew to cease from using that title of Duke of York and making that associations. Clearly, there's an ambassadorial role which accompanies that, and we believe it's time to move on into this new era. And after the statement he produced, we believe this is a first step that he can take to show that he is listening and reflecting.
So I suppose the big question now is, like, is anyone going to talk? I mean, I don't think Prince Andrew ever will. He's done his interview and he didn't go very well. Virginia Giuffre, what do you think?
Well, I'm no legal expert, so we spoke to one, and they said that they think that potentially further down the line that she could end up speaking.
Well, despite the sort of, clearly they've signed some sort of non-disclosure agreements.
And I said that to him. I said, would I be right in thinking that in a settlement that they would have come to an agreement that neither party talks publicly again? And Mitchell Epner, who we've spoken to previously, a former federal prosecutor, said no, he thought that that there would potentially be room for Virginia to talk in the future.
For him to say that he never intended to malign Ms. Giuffre's character, when the answer and affirmative defenses that Prince Andrew put forward less than a month ago specifically stated that she was responsible for her own damages because of her, quote, unclean hands, is a complete repudiation of that defense. This is a surrender by Prince Andrew.
Not great then, all round, for Prince Andrew specifically, but for the royal family more widely. And then it was all compounded by this news that the Met Police announced. Funny enough, I was actually up. You know, when you sort of fly over to that side of the world, you kind of wake up quite early for a few days. And I kind of up and I saw this email from the Metropolitan Police sort of talking about an investigation into the Prince's Foundation, which is Prince Charles's charity, formerly run by the CEO, Michael Fawcett, and Prince Charles's right-hand man, who has since resigned, about whose activities there will now be a police investigation.
Yeah, we were still dealing with the fallout from Prince Andrew and the settlement with Virginia Giuffre, and mid-morning on Wednesday, there was
Bang.
this announcement from the Metropolitan Police. So if the royal family thought things were bad, they got it even worse on the Wednesday.
Yes, because so this is the claim that the former CEO Michael Fawcett, also a right-hand man of Prince Charles for many decades, a claim that he'd offered assistance with British citizenship and an honour because of previous donations and in lieu of future donations to the Prince's Foundation. Now, we should be clear, the Prince's Foundation does a lot of good work. We've seen it ourselves at places like Dumfries House. It needs money coming in. And I think we said on this podcast before, you don't raise the money for the Prince's Foundation in the kind of sums that it needs by rattling a tin outside a supermarket. And Michael Fawcett did successfully manage to get money in. What's being looked at here is a claim that he was offering this Saudi businessman assistance with an honour in return for donations.
Yeah, and a source told us last week that Charles, whose foundation it is, he would be happy to help with the investigation if asked, but at this stage he has not been. And we spoke to the former MP Norman Baker, who actually wrote to the Metropolitan Police requesting that this was investigated.
Yes.
And he said...
Well, he's no fan of the royals.
He's no fan of the royals.
I have to say.
No.
And that's not to say a reason why he can't recommend these things to the police. But we should say he's no fan of the royal family or having a...
And the anti-monarchy group, Republic, did too.
Yeah.
And this is what Norman had to say to us.
Well, the police should pursue their inquiries wherever they take them. And they should not think about who they're interviewing. They should think about whether an offence has been committed and who may have information which is useful to their inquiries. If that happened to be the heir to the throne, so be it.
Despite what we just heard from Norman Baker there, Prince Charles's office say that the Prince himself had no knowledge of the letter, the alleged letter that Michael Fawcett had written to this Saudi businessman. But he will, obviously, Prince Charles will cooperate if the police wish him to do so.
Yep.
No comment from Michael Fawcett. In fact, there hasn't been any comment from Michael Fawcett since he stood down as CEO. So
no.
we can't say Michael Fawcett denies the allegations because he hasn't responded.
Yep.
So, so there we are. Bad day number 2 for the royal family last week. Not good at all. We've still got quite a lot to get through, haven't we?
We have.
And I'm aware that this podcast is running to a lengthy duration. I think we should skip to some news from abroad. And
do you mean by that
well,
Denmark or America?
I kind of mean, well, there's 3 actually, Denmark or America or the Caribbean.
Oh.
Or Ireland. I mean, there's quite a lot of...
There's quite a lot of abroad.
Let's just change tone completely and have a quick sort of upsum of the announcement that Buckingham Palace made actually just a few moments before we stepped into the studio of tours. There's always tours when the Queen has a jubilee. In fact, there's always tours every year, but they kind of have more of them, don't they, when the Queen has a jubilee?
I'm just getting up my media advisory, so I've got the date.
Lizzie is typing into her phone and getting
I've got it.
I don't think either of us have actually printed it out yet. But we have had confirmation of where everyone's going. And it starts with Ireland, Charles and Camilla, but I think the thing that will get a lot of interest, of course, is the countries of Belize, Jamaica and the Bahamas, which is where Wills and Kate are going.
Yeah, William and Kate are going to visit from the 19th to the 26th of March.
19th to 26th of March, that's 3 countries. What's that, roughly 2 days per country-ish?
Yeah, I think the 19th is a Saturday, isn't it? 26th is a Saturday, so yeah. We're going to have a whistle-stop tour of the Caribbean.
There we go. Not a bad place.
Not a bad place to be.
We just have to get approval to go there first, because no one's told us we can yet. We'll work on that one.
They actually have. I just haven't told you.
Oh, okay. You clearly need your podcast during that time to come from the Bahamas or Belize or Jamaica, because we'll say that the podcast viewers and listeners have demanded it. Charles and Camilla to Ireland. Nothing unusual there. We think that they've got another tour later in the year to Canada, but that hasn't been confirmed at this precise time.
And they're there from the 23rd to the 25th of March, which interestingly clashes with the Cambridges.
Yes, I was noting that earlier when I was putting it into my diary. So one's going to get covered and one won't, presumably.
Yes.
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 And I would be unkind of me to make predictions, but I would probably say that William and Kate's tour of the Caribbean is going to get more coverage than Charles and Camilla's of Ireland. Beautiful place, Ireland, by the way. I'm just making predictions here. And we went recently with Charles, well, not recently, many years ago with Charles and Camilla. Had a very good time. Edward and Sophie are doing a different bit of the Caribbean, the sort of Antigua and...
Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And they are there from the 22nd to the 28th of April.
There's Edward and Sophie, and then Princess Anne is doing Papua New Guinea, I believe.
From the 11th to the 13th of April.
Right. Now, am I right in thinking these are all realm countries? I think, yeah, it's a good question. I know Belize, I know Jamaica is, I know Bahamas is.
Antigua and Barbuda is.
Yeah.
Grenada is.
Okay.
St. Lucia is, yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're all realms. Papua New Guinea? Okay.
Think
we'll get back to you on that one. Maybe I can Google it.
Maybe you could Google it while we're here.
Okay, so you pick up on that, and I'll do some Googling. Go
on. Well, we'd spoken a lot about the Cambridges, hadn't we? I think in the last podcast, some of the countries had been widely reported in the press, and Jamaica, Prince Harry was the last person to visit. He went during the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. There were those great pictures of him with Usain Bolt.
Yes, yeah, exactly, doing the Usain Bolt thing.
Yes, the Bolt.
Yes.
Have you found out if Papua New Guinea's a...
No, I'm still going.
You're still going?
Well, its anthem, its national anthem is God Save the Queen, so that might be a clue.
I think it is.
I'm going down religion,
I'm going to go, yeah.
It's a unitary parliamentary constitutional democracy, and the monarch is Elizabeth II.
Yeah,
there we go. It has a Governor General, which they all do, don't they? Which is the Queen's representative in those areas. So, hello, if you're watching or listening to this in Papua New Guinea, at least we found out together that you are one of the 14 other realms.
In addition to the UK.
We should have a competition on this website, so that we can, on this podcast, if we can actually name all 14. Anyway, yes. So all of these tours, this is the answer to the question we posed many minutes ago.
All of the countries
are realm countries.
Yes, and they'll be hoping...
Apart from Ireland. Sorry, we should say apart from Ireland.
Apart from Ireland.
Clearly, not Ireland.
The Cambridges will be hoping to sort of garner support in that region, won't they, after Barbados left?
Well, there is a lot of talk that Jamaica wants to go the same way as Barbados.
Barbados, yep. So they'll be hoping to be on the charm offensive.
Okay, bit of sunshine to come in this podcast. Wasn't much sunshine in Denmark, but then Denmark is a northern European country, and it was February, so we can't expect lots of sunshine, but Kate did bring her sunny disposition to Denmark. And there were some pictures, actually, of Kate with other members of the Danish royal family. One of the interesting things about the crown princess in Denmark, Princess Mary, is actually from Tasmania. And married the crown prince, who's Danish, presumably, and has sort of very much learnt the language. Danish isn't a very easy language to learn, I am told. And Queen Margarethe II, like Queen Elizabeth II, celebrates a jubilee this year, except Queen Margarethe's is, I say only, it's still quite an achievement, her golden jubilee, 50 years, whereas you well know by now our Queen is celebrating her 70th.
Yep, so there was a... Kate met the royal family on the second day. And there were lovely pictures of them walking across the square together, and then they went to see Crown
Paris, or was it Christian IX's palace? Which one was it?
Yep. And then they went together to see the Crown Princess's foundation.
Yes. Well, actually, let's tell you the purpose of the trip. The main purpose of the trip was Kate's work on early years, on child development, and all the rest of it. And I suppose as part of that, the picture of the trip wasn't necessarily with the Queen and the Crown Prince. The picture of the trip was
Kate coming down a slide.
You stood far enough away. In the spirit of where I am, I had to do that.
Question, why did Kate go down a children's slide in her high heels? I have to say, hold on, before we get on to why she was on the slide, how do you get out of a child's slide with high heels and not fall over?
I don't know, but she...
So many things could have gone wrong.
And she could have taken out the waiting press at the other end.
She could have taken out Arthur Edwards or whoever was waiting to photograph her.
I thought she, good sport to go down that.
Yeah. To leap up on her feet. I mean, this is remarkable.
I think she said something like, well, I kind of, had to, given I was here, basically. So the purpose of the visit was all around her early years work. We know that for Kate, that she is passionate about the early years, from a child being born to the age of 5. She feels like that she has done a lot of work on how important those years are to your later years.
And Denmark is a country which is leading the way in this area.
Yeah, it's one of the highest countries for happiest people. There's a lot of highs and happies there.
Highs, happy. Well, I mean, we've been to Denmark before, haven't we? We couldn't go on this trip because, we were due to go on the trip, but then the Queen got COVID, and then we were ordered by the bosses to stay here. Otherwise, we would have gone on the trip, and I would have been very happy to be in Denmark. So Copenhagen's a beautiful city, and Denmark's a great place.
Mm-hmm. And the place with the slide was a play lab, a Lego Foundation play lab, and it all focuses
all the money that Lego makes from those plastic bricks. They're obviously, piling into this foundation where they do some good work.
And it's all focusing on play, basically, teaching children to play and be creative. And that's why she was there.
Right. So, and also there was she went to, was it a forest school or?
Forest school on the second day, where we saw her chopping wood.
Past his podcast window and they wave at you like we're in the middle of recording a podcast, but we will wave.
Who's waving at you? One of the bosses.
But they just walked past and sort of waved. I thought, you wouldn't normally do that, would you? Anyway, yes. So Kate was
forest
there.
School. We know she believes in promoting the outdoors for enhancing the well-being
which we
of
experienced,
children.
as you well remember, at the Chelsea Flower Show a couple of years ago when she designed that garden. It was all about getting your hands dirty, and we saw Louis, George and Charlotte playing there. I think a successful trip in terms of it was actually organised by the Royal Foundation's Centre on Early Child Development.
Yeah, it's the first time she's taken it on an international stage.
And a real shame we couldn't be there, actually, to be fair. I would have liked to have seen Kate at work at close quarters.
And actually those great pictures of her on the slide and her chopping the wood, that really helps land the story of why she's there. So it's kind of, the good story, the good pictures,
as opposed to
and the
being
big
a sort of
issues.
sterile sort of conference room or something, isn't it? It really does help having the pictures to go with the story. Shall we talk about what Prince Harry's been up to this week? He likes a bit of court action, Harry, doesn't he?
He does like a bit of court action. They both do.
And Meghan, yes.
Yeah.
They like to be in court. So we've had news of the latest visit by Prince Harry to the litigation courts. They filed a complaint in the High Court in London, just as Meghan did some time ago now, about the Mail on Sunday's article on her letter to her father. This, however, oddly, Harry's office still talks to us, or they talk to many bits of the British media that aren't the tabloids, we should be clear there. But they were happy to confirm that legal action had begun and a lawsuit had been filed against Associated Newspapers Limited, which is the parent company of the Mail on Sunday, the Daily Mail and Mail Online.
Yeah.
But then they said nothing else. Like, what's the article? Won't say. What's the publication? Won't say. What's the point? Won't say.
Yeah, and I think that will come out in time, but right now we have no idea.
No. Okay, so Harry's back in the courts. There is some legal action pending for either the Mail on Sunday, the Mail Online or the Daily Mail about an article as yet unclear. Yeah, anyway, there we go. That's as much as we can tell you. We can also tell you about Harry being in court on something else.
So last Friday there was a first hearing after Harry sued over a decision not to allow him to pay for police protection for himself and his family while in the UK.
So who's he suing this time? The Home Office?
Yes.
Yes, he's suing a department of the United Kingdom government. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just like there just seems to be a lot of legal action, which we are certainly not used to when it comes to the royal family.
Yeah.
But maybe, as a lot of Harry and Meghan's fans will point out and do point out on social media, this is what he should be doing. He should be tackling injustices and tackling wrongs, and if he needs to go through the courts to do that, and then so be it.
So he's arguing that his private protection team in the US doesn't have adequate jurisdiction here in the UK to access UK intelligence information which is needed to keep him and his family safe. So in court on Friday, his team said this claim is about the fact that the claimant, Harry, does not feel safe when he is in the UK given the security arrangements applied to him in June 2021 and will continue to be applied to him. It goes without...
June 2021 was when he was over here for Princess Diana's statue unveiling, yes?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It goes without saying that he does want to come back to see family and friends and to continue to support the charities that are so close to his heart. Most of all, this is and always will be his home.
Right. Which is why he's renewed the lease on Frogmore Cottage as well, isn't it? That, we read, which is currently occupied by Eugenie and Jack, but that's another story. So, Harry claims that he was unsafe. His life was effectively in danger when he was here for Princess Diana's statue unveiling because he went to another charity event at some point during that visit, which was the Whale Child charity.
Yeah.
Great charity. And he thinks he says he was chased by paparazzi afterwards and therefore his life is in danger. That court case is, what happened to that court case?
It's ongoing, so there'll be another hearing. On the other side, we should say the QC for the Home Office, and I'm going to quote something here where I talk a lot about something called RAVEC, which is the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures.
Sorry, Executive Committee for what?
The Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, RAVEC.
Royalty and
so
public
in
figures.
a written...
ECPRPF, that doesn't say RAVEC to me. What does RAVEC stand for?
It's what it's shortened to,
okay.
RAVEC. Anyway, that's what it's shortened to. So in written submissions, the QC said, personal protective security by the police is not available on a privately financed basis, and RAVEC, what I just mentioned, does not make decisions on the provision of such security on the basis that any financial contribution could be sought or obtained to pay for it. He went on to say that RAVEC had attributed to the Duke a form of exceptional status where he is considered for personal protective security by the police, with the precise arrangements being dependent on the reason for his presence in Great Britain and by reference to the functions he carries out when present.
Okay, that sounds like a very long sentence. I kind of lost my train of thought.
Basically, he cannot buy it.
Summarise it.
He can't buy it.
You ain't a member of the royal family.
No, you can't buy it because it's not available on a privately financed basis.
Okay.
They're saying that he has a form of exceptional status where every time he's here, he's considered as to whether he requires it for whatever the reason he's in the country.
It's entirely possible that they might say, "Oh, actually, no, Harry, you are coming over here. We will give you this RAVEC thing."
But rather than it being guaranteed, it's considered
on a case-by-case basis.
It
rather suggesting they didn't conclude that he needed it last summer, presumably, because he didn't have it then. Yes, and then he says his life was in danger. So it looks like they concluded last time you don't need it, but perhaps if he came over, say, for example, for the Duke of Edinburgh's memorial.
I think for the funeral, last year for the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral, he had some sort of security, didn't he?
I don't know. I mean, did he pay for it himself? Did he have police protection?
But I don't think you can pay for it. I think that's what they're saying.
Okay. So anyway, it kind of means it's odd, isn't it? Because it kind of means like he's got more difficulty coming back to the UK than he does if he goes to somewhere like, let's say, the Netherlands, where they're holding the Invictus Games in May.
April.
Correct.
April. 16th to the 22nd of April.
But if he goes there, I mean, how is his security assessed when he goes there? Because he's not a member of the British royal family.
Yeah.
Because he chose to leave it. I mean, it was his choice to leave.
Yeah.
It wasn't, to be fair on Harry, it wasn't his choice to be in the royal family in the first place, because that was, by accident of birth. But it was his choice to leave it.
Yep.
So
to be continued. That case
TBC,
is
Two
ongoing.
things, TBC lawsuit against the Associated Newspapers, and TBC suing the Home Office.
Yes.
Wow. You know what? It'd be good to have a job in Harry and Meghan's legal department, because you would never be short of work.
No, you wouldn't.
Camilla, consort. Now, we've heard Camilla kind of speaking about this consort thing before, saying it was a huge honour, but she has spoken to a BBC radio programme called Woman's Hour. Many people in this country will know exactly what that is, but it's a daily show on Radio 4, and she has spoken about the honour of being given, or the Queen saying that she can use the title Queen Consort when Prince Charles becomes king, and using her position to do a lot more work in this very important area of domestic violence.
Yeah, so the context of the interview was around domestic violence, which we know that she cares passionately about, and she is very committed to working both publicly and privately, and has said, she will do whatever she can to help. And within the interview, she was asked about the role of Queen Consort, and she said, it is of course a great honour, but she will never give up on this cause and is committed to it for life. So, regardless of whether she's the Duchess of Cornwall or the Queen Consort, this is an issue for her that's not going away, that she will still commit to it.
There will come a time when your role changes. The Queen, with her recent announcement about your role, in a way is endorsing the work that you do, all the difficult areas too. How important is that for you and your causes?
Well, of course it's a great honour. It couldn't be anything else, but it does help it. It doesn't. I'm going to keep on with these causes. If I start something like this, I'm not going to give up mid-channel. I'm just going to keep going to try and help the likes of people like Diana.
You always see yourself giving a voice to these
Always,
women and keeping going.
I hope I shall be doing it for a lifetime.
Her Majesty also talked about looking ahead to the Platinum Jubilee, a sense of hope, optimism. We are coming out of very strange times. How important do you think that is for the country at the moment, that we sort of have that?
Oh, well, I think it's always lovely to have something happy to look forward to, isn't it? I mean, we've all been through hard times. We've all been locked away from our family and friends, and now we can all get together again and celebrate.
Now, unusually, I've got some bits of paper in front of me here, which we haven't been able to do this for a while, but it does say, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I do often get these things wrong, that we can say that William and Kate are going somewhere next week. Was that right?
We can.
And we can say that Charles and Camilla are going somewhere next week.
We can.
Because it's got here, just before I put this out on the podcast when I shouldn't, it says engagement 1, open brackets, for publication or broadcast, close brackets. That means we can say it, doesn't it?
So Kate and William are going to Wales for St David's Day on the 1st of March.
Yep.
And Charles and Camilla are going to Southend-on-Sea to mark it officially becoming a city on the 1st of March.
Yes, the key thing about Southend-on-Sea, of course, was that was the location of the MP, Sir David Amess, who was murdered in that constituency last year. And one of the things he wanted for the town of Southend was for it to become a city. And Charles and Camilla will go to mark the city status that'll, yes, and actually it says here, I can say this stuff. I'm just amazed that I can say this stuff. Normally we're not allowed to, but Sir David Amess's wife, Lady Julia Amess, will be there. So I think that will be particularly significant for her, but also for the people of Southend. And yeah, in Wales, it's St David's Day, the 1st of March, isn't it? So we've got William and Kate going to Abergavenny and Blaenavon. I hope I pronounced that right, because I'm not very good. I've been criticised before for getting my Welsh pronunciations wrong, but yeah, doing plant farm. Oh, and actually planting a tree for the Queen's Jubilee.
Yep.
So
it's a busy week. And
yeah,
then
that was quite refreshing. Able to say something that's happening next week.
So Tuesday's a busy day, and then Wednesday we've potentially got this Queen attendance at the reception for the diplomatic corps.
Potentially got the Queen's attendance if she goes.
Well, if she goes, yes, TBC.
Right then, there we go.
Busy.
That's what I missed.
That's what you missed.
That's exactly what I missed. Yeah. I hope you think that I was informed enough to talk about it in the podcast, but we've always got Lizzie here who did know what was going on because she wasn't on vacation, as they say.
I think I need one now, though.
But she does need one now. So thank you very much. We will see you next week. We will let you know what happens to the Queen and COVID. And as we always say, if you need updates in between these podcasts, which I'm sure you do, the Twitter, my Twitter is @ChrisShipITV. Your Twitter is
@LizzieITV.
And our Instagram is @ITV News Royals, where you will find all the pictures that you could possibly want of this very busy royal family.